Hey everyone, my name's Aton and I'm 16 years old. Ever since I was a kid, I've had one thing that I've always loved, Phillies baseball. The Phillies have been with me every step of my life. As a kid, I used to pretend to be Greg Dobbs. And last fall, I started a blog where I wrote all about the Phillies. And now I'm adding another chapter to my Phillies journey, a YouTube channel. My earliest Phillies memory was one that haunts the memories of Phillies fans all around, Game 5 of the 2011 LDS. The duel between Chris Carpenter and Roy Halladay that ended in a 1-0 Cardinals win, the Phillies elimination, the torn Achilles of Ryan Howard, and effectively marked the end of the Phillies' dominant run. For most of my life, simply putting it, or not really simply, the Phillies have sucked. They've been terrible. My memories of the Phillies in my childhood include the likes of Andres Blanco and Cameron Rupp. Don't get me wrong, legends, but Anyway, the Phils didn't have a single season above 500 until 2021 and had been rebuilding for almost a decade. But then came 2022. As you know, the Phils won the pennant that year, coming up just short in the World Series to the Houston Astros. Jordan Alvarez, God. I was lucky enough to make it to several playoff games that year, including Wild Card Game 2 in St. Louis, NLCS Game 4 at home, and the first two games of the Fall Classic in Houston. Phil's had another great season in 2023, but it all came crashing down against those evil, terrible Diamondbacks that we should have beat. And I still think about it all the time because if you have a 2-0 lead and a 3-2 lead against a Diamondbacks team and home field advantage, there's no reason to lose that series. But anyway, now spring training's underway and the 2024 season is near on the horizon. You might be wondering, why are you here? Why am I here? Well, today I'll be making my predictions for the 24 team, giving you reasoning and my analysis as to what and why the Phillies will do. Let's go in depth, position by position, and see where the Phillies are strong and where they could use some help. So first of all, let's talk about the starting rotation. Our main guy, Zach Wheeler, he had a record of 12-6 with an ERA of 3.61 and 212 strikeouts last year, and he kept it going in the playoffs with an ERA of 1.95 and 35 strikeouts. He's without a doubt the anchor of this pitching staff. No team can have the success like we do without a horse like him. I expect a huge year from Wheeler. I think, like he did in 2021, he'll put himself back into Cy Young contention, and if he can stay consistent and healthy, he might even win the award. Next, we have the newly extended Aaron Nola. Nola did struggle last season, at least in the regular season, posting a 12-9 record with an ERA of 4.46. He did have 202 strikeouts in 32 appearances, however, but he turned it up in the playoffs when we needed him the most. He had a 3-1 record and an ERA of 2.35 and 23 strikeouts in just 4 appearances. Often considered the second ace of the staff, Nola is due for a bounce back year. I see him doing great things in 2024 if he can lower those home run rates. Third, we've got Ranger Suarez. One of the better surprises of the past few seasons for the Phillies, Ranger had a 13-8 win-loss record, a 3.12 ERA, and 156 strikeouts in 2023. He continued his postseason dominance, turning in a 1-1 record with an ERA of 1.93 and 19 strikeouts in 4 appearances in the playoffs. Ranger figures to be another big piece in the Phillies rotation in 24. Like Wheeler and Nola, expect Suarez to be a key to Phillies' success this year. Next up is one of the greater question marks in the rotation. That's Taijuan Walker. Look, he's a good pitcher. He's proven that he's a good pitcher, but last season wasn't good. He did have a team best 15-6 record with 138 strikeouts, but struggled towards the end. The biggest concern was his first inning ERA, where he posted an ERA above 7 in the first inning. And that huge problem led to Taijuan Walker not seeing any time in the playoffs, which came as a surprise to many last year. However, if Walker can figure out the first inning and stay consistent like he's been able to do in the past, he'll be fine. And finally, for the rotation, let's round it out. We've got Christopher Sanchez, the young southpaw. He had a 3.72 ERA, 7 wins, 5 losses, and almost 100 strikeouts, finishing with 97. He even saw some playing time in the postseason, making a spot start in NLCS Game 4, which, again, we should have won, but someone decided to give a home run up to Alec Thomas, which just, I don't even want to remember that, but whatever. If Sanchez can do what he did last year, he'll be fine. Remember, Sanchez didn't secure a spot in the rotation until the summer of last year, as the Phillies had the likes of Bailey Falter and Dylan Covey starting games for some reason. Now that we've talked about the starters, let's discuss the guys backing them up in the infield. Let's begin with the cornerstone of the franchise, the great Bryce Harper. Harper, who signed here as a right fielder and spent most of 2022 and 2023 as a designated hitter, has now fully transitioned into a first baseman. Harper had a 293 batting average with 134 hits, 21 bombs, 72 RBIs, and 84 runs scored in just 126 games. He remained to be that guy in the playoffs, batting a 286 average with 12 hits, 5 homers, 8 RBIs, and 14 home runs scored in those 13 games. Attaboy, Harper. The reason these numbers were lower than usual were that, in case you forgot, Harper spent the first about month and a half of the season recovering from Tommy John surgery because, in case you forgot, he tore his UCL last season. Coming as a surprise to absolutely nobody, Harper, I think, will have another great year, and barring an injury, could be a top 5 MVP finisher. Doesn't this guitar sound so good? Well, second baseman Bryson Stott may be living in this big blue world, but he can hit baseballs to outer space. Get that reference? That was pretty funny, right? Stott broke out in 2023 with a 280 batting average, 15 homers, 62 RBIs, and a 747 OPS. He had a batting average of 239 with 11 hits, a bomb, 9 RBIs, and 5 runs scored in the playoffs. Remember, he had that great grand slam against the Marlins. In addition to his impressive offensive numbers, Stott was also one of the best defenders in the league. I expect Stott to keep this up. He'll be A-OK. Great song, by the way. I absolutely love that song. If you ever see me, you'll just see me playing that song because it's a complete banger and it's awesome. It's great. Next up, we got shortstop Trey Turner. Love that guy. Trey Turner had a batting average of 268 with 171 hits, 26 bombs, 76 RBIs, and 102 runs scored in 155 games. But he also had that hot streak after August 4th when fans gave him a standing ovation amidst his struggles. He batted 342 with 16 home runs and 42 RBIs in those final 48 games. Trey kept it up in the playoffs, hitting 347 with 17 hits, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, and 9 runs scored in 13 games. Like Stott, he too made improvements with his glove, most notably during Game 1 of the NLDS, when he began a fantastic double play. I remember I was at homecoming dance watching the game, and I got a little bit excited, but it's fine to get excited because that play was so awesome, and that was just awesome beating the Braves, and it's getting used to it because we own them in the playoffs. Anyway, if the Phils want to replicate their success, they need Trey Turner to play like he did from August on to October. And do I think he'll play like that? Of course I do. Throughout his career, Turner has shown how great of a player he is, so I feel there's no reason to worry about him. He'll be fine. Now, a player who has been under fire from fans the past few months for his performance in the playoffs is our tall third baseman. Alec Bohm played pretty well in the regular season, hitting 274 with 153 hits, 20 homers, 97 RBIs, and 74 runs scored. However, he could not replicate the success in the playoffs, specifically in the NLCS. He had just a 239 batting average with 11 hits, a bomb, 6 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. I will admit, I like him a lot. I think he could be a great player, but I do worry about his lack of power and his lack of defense. But I think these tools can be solved, and I think he'll be an above-average player. Behind the plate, the man who many consider to be the best catcher in the business. JT Realmuto had a batting average of 252 with 123 hits, 20 home runs, 63 RBIs, and 70 runs scored in 135 games last year. In the playoffs, he played pretty well, with a 265 batting average, 13 hits, 3 home runs, and 12 RBIs. Again, I think JT will have another amazing year, not only not only at the plate, but also behind the plate, where he's just amazing and he can get almost anyone out. And I just find it impressive how he's been able to do that throughout his entire career and just hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. Now let's get to the outfield. In left field, we have Brandon Marsh. Since being acquired from Anaheim in 2022, and you can see I'm smiling when I'm talking about him, Marsh has become a fan favorite, being a leader in crime in the Phillies daycare along with Bowman Stott. It's so funny what they do after games. Marsh had a batting average of 277 with 112 hits, 12 homers, 60 RBIs, and 58 runs scored last year. He was phenomenal in the playoffs, by the way. He was great. He batted 342 with 13 home runs, 13 hits, a home run, 4 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. I think he'll continue his progression into a quality piece, both at the plate and in the field. Now, center field. We have another big question mark. The Phillies called up Johan Rojas in July last year, and he left a strong impact on the club in the regular season with his bat and stellar defense. Rojas batted 302 with 45 hits, 2 home runs, 23 RBIs, and 24 runs scored in 59 games in the regular season. But as most of you know, and if you don't know, you will know soon, the postseason showed him no mercy. He had a batting average of just .093 with 4 hits and 2 runs scored in all 13 games. Rojas's glove is what is keeping him up in the big leagues for now, but to maintain his spot, he needs to hit better. To round out the outfield, the Phillies have Nick Castellanos in right field. Nick batted 272 with 170 hits, 29 homers, 106 RBIs, and 79 runs scored in 157 games last season. He too struggled in the postseason, specifically in the NLCS. Actually, he was great in the NLDS with 4 home runs in 2 games. But, he batted 213 with 10 hits, 5 bombs, 7 RBIs, and 7 runs scored. Castellanos was an all-star last season and again made history in the NLDS with 4 home runs in those 2 games. However, like so many others, he struggled in the NLCS, having just 1 hit in almost 30 plate appearances. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I think if he can put those struggles behind him, he'll have a fine year in 2024. In the designated hitter spot, the Phillies have former National League home run king Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber had a 197 batting average with 115 hits, 47 homers, 104 RBIs, and 108 runs scored in 160 games in 2023. In the postseason, however, he turned it on. He batted 255 with 12 hits, 5 homers, 6 RBIs, and 9 runs scored in 13 games in the fall. Schwarber will remain out of the field, thankfully. But in the lineup with the emergence of the gloves of Rojas and Marsh, I expect another year above 40 homers for Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Now, let's get to the bench. The Phillies bench bats were a major source of concern for Phillies fans this offseason. However, most of those fears have diminished recently with the most recent news out of South Philadelphia. It was announced that the Phillies had agreed to terms for a 1-year, $8 million deal with former Royals and Blue Jays super utility man Whit Merrifield. Merrifield batted 272 with 149 hits, 11 home runs, 67 RBIs, and 66 runs scored last year. When I heard about this move, I was ecstatic. Merrifield's the exact kind of guy I wanted the Phillies to get. A great glove who can play anywhere, who is an above-average hitter. Merrifield joins a bench that includes Edmundo Sosa, Christian Pache, Garrett Stubbs, Rodolfo Castro, Cody Clemens, and Jake Cave. Now, to finish up the roster discussion, let's talk about the bullpen. After the bullpen kept the Phils out of the playoffs in 2020 and 2021, a switch has been flipped, and the group is now one of the most dominant in the league. Anchored by hard-throwing lefty Jose Alvarado, who I love and everyone in Philly loves, who had an ERA of 1.74, 64 strikeouts, and 10 saves last year, which is insane. It's phenomenal. The bullpen looks to stay strong. Jeff Hoffman, who had a phenomenal breakout year, had a 5-2 record with an ERA of 2.41, 69 strikeouts, and 1 save. While dealing with some injuries, longtime Phillies Seranthony Dominguez posted an ERA of 3.78, 48 strikeouts, and 2 saves last year. Again, these numbers are a little below average for Dominguez, but if injuries don't plague him like they did last year, he'll be just fine. I'm not worried about him. Perhaps the most exciting part of the Phillies bullpen is the young man that many expect to be the closer, and I personally think should be the closer. Orion Kerkering was called up in the final week of the 2023 season and showed major promise. Having a near triple-digit fastball and a nasty slider, Kerkering has the tools to become a dominant closer. The already strong bullpen includes guys like Gregory Soto, Matt Strahm, and Junior Marte, all promising arms who will figure into the 2024 club. So, now that the roster analysis is done, here's what you've been waiting for. My predictions for the 2024 season. I think the Phillies will finish 94-68, improving 4 games from their 2023 record, and place second in the National League East to the Atlanta Braves, who will probably finish with another 100-year season. That team's insane. I mean, they got Chris Sale. They got better in so many different ways. But I expect another deep playoff run as well this year. But will it end in the franchise's 3rd ring? That's for the fight and Phils to decide. That's it for today's video. I really appreciate you guys watching. I do hope to get video analysis out for maybe not every game, but most games in the regular season. And periodically I'll stop by and just talk about the state of the team and everything. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more. And yeah, go Phils.